All right, so I'm gonna
Only
just
only thing is my food's gonna come. So at one point I'm gonna have to like stand up and go to the
uh,
door.
just don't even no because I'm gonna edit this anyways.
Oh, great. So it doesn't matter. Okay.
So
I
just
figured,
like
but you know,
yeah, so just wait until one of us is done talking and then tell me, and then that way I can edit it out.
great.
All right, so I'm gonna intro you, and then we'll go from there. So you're the editor in chief of WTP Sports and the creator of Girl at the Game.
Mhm.
All right. All right, so we're going to welcome onto the show Gabrielle Starr. She is the editor in chief of WTP Sports and also the creator of Girl at the Game. And welcome to the show, Gabrielle.
Thanks, Pat.
Recurring guest at this point. You've been on once
Yeah.
before, so here you are again.
First time
Uh,
in the 2018 though, I think, right?
I believe so. I'm pretty sure last time it was like in November or December or something like that.
Yeah, that was a while ago. And we
Yep,
actually we definitely before the start of the baseball season.
that's
So,
true. That is true. So, and here we are, 44 games in, 44 and a half games in at this point.
well,
Um,
eighth inning. So,
yeah, so maybe even more, 44 and 8/9.
oh god.
Um, but but no, the Red Sox, I mean, obviously at 30 and 14, like they look pretty damn good so far. But when you start to look into the actual numbers, they're 13 and 12 in the last 25 games. So yes, they started off super hot and they've been pretty much at 500 since then. And so the questions kind of are going to be, can they keep it going? And of course, Boston's so negative. We're
Oh
all just
man.
super negative, and so we're like, well, who cares about what's happening in the regular season? What's going to happen when we get to the playoffs? And look at this guy and look how they're playing now.
Gotta
And it's
have
like,
a good regular season to get to the playoffs though. Everyone seems to forget that. If we keep losing games to teams like Oakland, we're not gonna make it to the postseason.
that's a good point. It's a good point.
I
Yeah,
mean,
forget about losing games to Oakland. How about getting shut out, getting no hit by Oakland? Um,
you had to start with that right off the bat.
well, I mean,
Pun
you
intended here.
brought up Oakland. I'm just saying.
That wound is so fresh
You could have
still.
said anybody, and you said Oakland. So what do you want me to do?
Well, we're currently losing to the Orioles, but I'm holding out hope that 6-3 isn't the worst deficit. I mean, we came back from an 8-1. Oh no, a 7-1 back in April.
Yeah,
The
no, 6-3
same,
can happen for
yeah.
sure. We'll
So,
see.
oh man.
But yeah, it's
Oh,
oh yeah, little terrible play out there in left field gives Bogarts, I guess, a double. Although I doubt that's a double, but probably an error,
Mullet. Yeah, he's
a two run
that's
error.
his 13th double of the season we got going on right there.
I don't know if I'd call that a double. If I'm the
Well,
scorer,
you didn't call it a double, but
that's a
MLB
that's
TV
a two
called it a
base
double.
that's a two base error if I'm calling it. But either way,
As long as the errors aren't being made by Rafael Devers, I'm like
that's true.
pretty content at this point because
He's made he's made quite a few. It's
it's
so funny because everyone talks about how terrible what's his face has been in the field.
Nunez.
Yeah. And I'm like, Nunez might be bad in the field, but Devers is 10 freaking Devers has literally as half of their errors for the season. Like
Well,
that's the first guy he went. Now he's been doing it at the plate, so I guess and not as much as obviously we'd be hoping he is, but he's still been doing it at the plate a hell of a lot more than Nunez has. So I
to be
guess
fair,
I can
Rafael
see the
Devers
point
is
there.
7.5 years old. So, you can look at it two ways. Either when he's amazing, you're like, oh my God, he's a child prodigy. And then when he's bad, it's like, well, he doesn't have the experience
Right.
or the cultivated skill. Like there's raw talent, but then there's cultivated skill. Like David Ortiz was not a good, batter when he was in when he was in
I
Minnesota.
thought you were gonna say fielder. And I was like, he was never a good fielder ever. But okay. All right,
No.
I'll give you batter.
Just like, some players are like fine wines and they get better with age. And then some players, it's like, they're Bryce Harper. But
Yeah.
you can't expect a guy who's, like 21 years old as of November to be like making like, yeah, it's annoying that he's got half the team's errors, but like it's not surprising so much considering he didn't have good coaching last year and he's
Right.
21 years old. It's
Right.
not like he's had the minor league experience that a lot of players have had where they work on a lot of the fundamentals, and he doesn't have, he didn't exactly have the best intro to the Red Sox last year when he was dealing with Farrell and company, who were one of their biggest problems was communication with the players.
Right. No, it's a good point. I mean, it's definitely a good point. I'm still holding out hope for him. I mean, he's only hitting like 245, but I still think he's going to be fine. And again,
Which
like you
was
said,
most of
it's
the
going to.
team last year, and we made it to the
Well,
ALDS. So
that's very true. That is very true. But you never know, I suppose. Um, but let's move on to let's actually talk about a player who's been crushing it, and that's Mookie Betts.
oh man,
He has been just out otherworldly. Hit his 14th home run
today,
tonight against the
yeah.
Orioles, and the kid is just on fire. And right now, he's got the best numbers in the league. I mean, most people saw Carabas tweet out something, MLB.com, or someone wrote an article about, Mike Trout being on pace to have one of the best statistical years in baseball history. And,
And I retweeted that. I was
he
like, you
pointed
spelled
out,
Mookie Betts wrong.
right, exactly. Well, and Carabas pointed out, like, he's better at him than in pretty much every single offensive category. Like,
Yeah,
how
well,
the hell can you point out Mike
I've
Trout
got it
instead
right
of
here.
Mookie Betts?
You've got Mookie batting 364, Trout's batting 290. Okay, and then Trout's got 12 homers, Mookie has 14. Like Mookie has had the lead league in homers for weeks now. He lost it to Machado last night for about 10 hours.
Right.
Got it right back tonight. He's leading. He's leading the league in RBIs, tied with JD Martinez. Stolen bases, he had 3 stolen bases last night, which is a new career high game stolen bases for him. He had 3. Like you can't even. I'm looking at Trout and Betts right now, and Mookie's ahead of him in almost everything except wins above replacement. Like that's it.
Right. Well, and that's the big thing. I mean, to me, right now, at least this season, I think he's having a better year now. Maybe will that even out by the end of the year? Possibly, but we'll see,
I mean,
But
it's definitely compared to 2017, and I'm always the person that's like annoyed when people compare things to season by season because it's like the season's over. Like you close the book on that. But at the same time, you need to recognize the fact that last year Mookie led the Red Sox in home runs with 24 homers.
right.
It's the middle of May, and he already has more than half of the homers he had cumulatively in last year's entire season and postseason. So it's like,
Right. No, it's
you just
true.
have to recognize what a resurgence he's had. He had kind of a Porcello-esque situation where he went from a 2016 where he was like, oh, look at that. Speak of Eduardo Nunez.
I know.
Eduardo
I
Nunez with
just
an
saw that. I'm
RBI.
like, of course, we're over here talking shit about Nunez, and he drives it on,
Good.
drives
So you
one
know
in.
what? Talk shit about Heath Hembry next, because
Oh yeah,
oof,
right.
God. But you just have to recognize like these players. It's baseball is so finicky. Both teams overall, players overall. Mookie was AL MVP runner up in 2016, and then last year he was the best player on like the worst home run hitting team in the league. And now
Right.
he's leading the entirety of Major League Baseball in almost everything. But
Right.
it's
Well,
also,
and I think
May 18th. So
right. I think the one
anything
thing
can
that
happen.
right. I think the one thing people point out about Trout, and I guess so we wanted to talk about this, and so I guess we'll just start it now. We had a discussion going on with some of the WTP guys about, whether you'd pick Trout or Betts. So if
Yeah.
you had to start a team and you could only have one center fielder, would it be Mike Trout or would it be Mookie Betts? And again, Betts isn't necessarily a center fielder; he's a right fielder. But say you could have one outfielder, it would be Trout or Betts. And the question is, who would you take? And so I think it's a great question because it's really, I mean, Trout
It's
has a
really,
lot more tread on the tires,
yeah.
but he's 26 and Betts is 25. So it's not like, he's played a lot more years, not a lot more years, but he's played more years than Betts has, but he's only a year older than him.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm obviously way more familiar with Mookie's stats because, my everyone at WTP knows my tunnel vision is like so honed in on the Red Sox. It's crazy. But I mean, like, and as of right now, I'm still going Mookie because I just think that like he's been so clutch, and I went to Anaheim for the Sox Angels series, and Mookie had his first three homer game of the season, in game one of the Anaheim series. Like he actually hit a home run the minute we got to the ballpark. And it was that time during the game where he homered, and then I think JBJ homered, and then I think Brock Holt homered maybe within about 5 minutes. And Mookie just kept homering. And I'm like, this guy, he just has something. Maybe it's the fact that his initials are MLB. Maybe it's the fact that, like, even last year when they were so bad, he still led the team. Like, he was never as bad as everybody else. Like, even when things got so bad, he was still really good. I don't know. I'm still choosing Betts over Trout just because I feel like he has so much potential. Like, he hasn't even unlocked. Like, that's the thing is you're saying, that Trout has more tread in his tires, right? Or like
Right.
more mileage, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
But that's the point is Mookie is doing better than Trout with less experience and less mileage. So
Right.
you have to hope and assume that he could only get better. Knock on wood. I have no wood in my apartment. Everything
Well,
in my
yeah, no,
apartment is IKEA. But
I got you. Yeah.
you
That's
just
why
have
I'm
you have
falling
you
apart
have
now.
to assume they're currently trending upwards at the same time. But
Well, here's some stats from Trout. So Trout's first full year in the major leagues was 2012. Okay, it
yeah,
was his first full year in the major leagues. So 2012, he was rookie of the year. He was an all-star. He won the Silver Slugger, and he was runner-up in the MVP. In 2013, he was runner-up for the MVP, Silver Slugger, All-Star game. In 2014, He was in the All-Star game. He won the Silver Slugger, and he won the MVP. Won the MVP. In 2015, he was runner-up for the MVP. Was in the All-Star game. Won the Silver Slugger. In 2016, he was in the All-Star game. Won the MVP and got the Silver Slugger. And then last year, he was hurt. Only played 114 games last year. Was an All-Star and was fourth in MVP voting. And one thing that I think people lose about Trout is that the rest of his team blows. The Angels are
they're so
terrible.
bad.
And so
Well,
like
you have
last
Shohei
year,
Shohei Otani now, but
well now they do, right? But
even
like
that's
in
kind of like a
2015,
sideshow.
in 2015, okay, Trout played 159 games in 2015. His batting average was 299. He had 41 home runs and 90 RBIs. He had 32 doubles, six triples, 41 home runs, and 90 RBIs. Even possible? You have 30, 41 home runs and 90 freaking RBIs. That means nobody's on base ever when you get up to bat. And so, like, his numbers, I think, are lacking at times. I mean, last year, same thing last year. He had 33 homers, 25 doubles, three triples, 33 home runs, 72 RBIs. And oh, by the
And he
way, he
only
hit
and he only
306.
and he only played in what would you say 119
100,
games?
114 games. So
114
that's
games.
so that's the thing for me is that his team sucks and the lineup around him sucks. And you look at it and say, imagine if this guy had a David Ortiz behind him or even a freaking Hanley Ramirez behind him. Like, give him somebody. He just
Yeah.
has nobody. And so I think if you were to put him on a team that has that, he might even be better than what he is now. But it's pretty difficult around here not to pick Mookie. And I actually thought Trout was a lot older because he started
Yeah, I
playing. He's
did
been
too
playing
because he's been
in the
playing for
league
such a
for
long
so
time.
long.
Yeah,
But I
because he's been
mean,
he's been playing in the league since he was like 18 years old.
right, right, and that's the thing is that he's been here
Oh
forever.
no,
And
20 years old. What am I saying? I
19,
can't I can't do math.
19. He was 19 in 2011. So yeah, but I mean, but this is his eighth year. I
But
might
then
have to go Trout, to be honest with you, just because he's so good. He's so fast. He's a good defensive outfielder. He plays center field. He plays probably a better center field than Mookie does. Now I don't think that matters because I don't think center field, like, yeah, center field, right field, whatever. Like, I don't think
yeah.
it really makes a difference. But I just think when you look at it over time, you look at what Trout has done, and it's just, I mean, it's really kind of remarkable. And like I said, especially with the shit lineup he has around him, I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty
But
impressive.
then you could also, I mean, I have to say, like, obviously, look, Trout's amazing. Never going to discount that. It's just funny to me when, like, like I said, like seasons past are seasons past. Right now, this season, Mookie is
Right.
having a better season.
Yeah,
Overall,
absolutely. Yeah.
I would be an idiot if I said that overall Mookie is a better player because historically speaking, Mike Trout has been one of the best players in baseball in the last decade. There's no denying that. I will say that one of the things is you could also argue that one of the reasons he's so good is because he has a shit team where you have a Giancarlo Stanton situation where he then goes to a strong team. And like we're going to talk about in a few minutes, Giancarlo is having a much worse season than JD Martinez. And he is not having the season that they were hoping for so far. You know, now that he's on a big market team surrounded by other supposed superstars. You know, he stood out because he was on the Marlins.
Right.
And
right.
now and you have to, and like anyone who says that Major League Baseball is equal across all teams.
No, it's not.
Is a moron. I mean, you have teams like the Red Sox and the Yankees, and then you have teams like, you know, the Marlins and the Rays.
Right. No, that's totally true. I think, and we're going to talk about Stanton in a minute, but because I think that's an interesting case where do it yet. But I think for me personally, I look at it and just say Trout's done it consistently, and he's done it every year. That's not the case with Stanton.
True. Stanton also until last year was injured every single year of his major league career.
Well, that's true. I mean, that's a valid point too. I mean, I just think too,
not in terms of his stats, just saying he has a propensity to get injured.
Right.
And therefore, like, he's also, you know, contractually speaking, he's a ridiculous acquisition because the guy has only had his rookie season and last season are the only 2 seasons that he was fully healthy for the entire season. Meanwhile, just have to say that the Red Sox currently have 2 outs and the bases loaded. And it's moments like this where I miss David Ortiz so much because you know that if it's 2007 and the bases are loaded with 2 outs, that's a grand slam.
Well, that's true, but now we've been sitting here talking about who's better, and you know who steps up to the plate is Mookie Betts. You know, with the bases loaded and 2 outs in the bottom of the 8th. So,
and my anxiety is like in my throat right now because you know we're talking about this, but then against Brad, whatever this guy's name is, who's pitching, apparently Mookie's batting like 167.
Yeah, no, not good. But you know, I mean, who knows?
I'm just we'll see. Pat, we're about to eat our words.
I know. Well, let's hope not. Hey, I picked Trout. Don't look at me. I'm the one that picked Trout.
I gotta ask, who else from That was a horrible swinging strike. How many people chose Trout over Betts?
Everybody picked Trout over Betts. I actually was saying maybe Trout over maybe Betts over Trout. Joe, you wouldn't be happy with Joe because he was like definitely Trout. So
I mean, Joe tweeted that this morning, but I'm never happy with Joe, and he just ordered me dinner. So
after that at bat, you may not be happy with Mookie Betts. So I know that's all right. I'll edit it out later. After that at bat, you may not be happy with Mookie Betts either. But nevertheless, let's move into the Martinez and Stanton thing because I think that's interesting. Just to kind of take a look at, if you look at Stanton's stats and look. Stanton in the past, I mean, there's no denying he was a very good hitter, but I mean, 59 home runs was unbelievable. But his highest before that was 37. And he did that twice, but he was only above 30 home runs 3 times in his career before last year. And I know he was limited, but he was playing over 100 games in all those seasons. So except for one of them, he played 74. But
we just blew that bases loaded situation right there. We could have taken the lead and then some, and we just
you heard
did
me.
not.
I mean, you heard me say it, right?
My TV's behind, so.
Oh, yeah.
You know, MLB TV.
Yeah, Mookie popped up a second. But, I mean, I think when you start looking at what he did, yes, he had a phenomenal year last year, you know, but he hit 281, which is pretty close to his career high. His career high was 290 before that. But, like, you know, 59 home runs was 22 more than he had ever hit in his career. I mean, it's almost double what he had hit in any other year. So it's like you start looking at it and you start saying like, okay, that's a little bit of an outlier there where you're trying to say like, really? Like, is he really that good?
No.
You know,
he's definitely not worth $325 million. I mean,
I don't think anyone's worth that.
Well, no one's worth that, obviously.
You know?
I mean, here's the thing. So I said in the offseason at the beginning, and I think this was after our podcast, so it's not, and even so, you do the podcast every week, so no one would remember. I never wanted Giancarlo Stanton. Like, all these people wanted Giancarlo Stanton. And I was like, look, the Red Sox over the years historically have made such bad decisions when it comes to signing sluggers. Even when they still had Poppy on the team, they signed Crawford and Gonzalez to 7-year contracts worth upwards of $140 million in the same year. Both of those guys lasted one season with the Sox. You have Pablo Sandoval, the bane of my existence, who got $95 million for 5 years and was like maybe the biggest disaster since the Hindenburg. Like,
Well, in fairness, if the Red Sox had ever made the World Series, Sandoval probably would have been fantastic.
Why? Because of the three homer game
Oh,
in 2012.
He's a super clutch player who only shows up in the playoffs. I mean, like,
which is my least favorite kind of player. just to obviously to put that out there. But
it's the stupidest thing of all time to say, like, well, this guy sucks in the regular season, but he's really good in the playoffs, so we're gonna pay him.
He's a bandwagon player. That's literally what he is. So anyway,
yeah.
Pablo Sandoval aside, because I could literally do a whole episode just shitting on Pablo Sandoval. The Red Sox needed a big bat. Like, that wasn't a secret. It wasn't,
right.
Like, that wasn't going to be. I just didn't want it to be Stanton, because I said Stanton. My article last year, like, I had an article last year saying, Stanton's season was not only unheard of for like most baseball players, but it was unprecedented for him. Like, even he doesn't have seasons like that. It's not like every year Giancarlo Stanton hits upwards of 50 home runs and 132, I think, RBIs. It was even Giancarlo Stanton has never had a season like Giancarlo Stanton had last year, and therefore, if in terms of longevity, in terms of injuries, in terms of everything under the sun, Giancarlo Stanton is not worth the money that the Marlins and now the Yankees are paying him. Meanwhile, JD Martinez split his 2017 season between the Diamondbacks and the Tigers. He only appeared in 119 games, and he batted .303 with 45 homers and 104 RBIs.
Right, and not just that too. I think
so
too.
You spend half the season with one team, half the season with another. You don't even play a full 162 games. And a lot of players really struggle when they're traded, There's like there's like an acclimation period, there's like a learning curve, you're in a different ballpark, all these kinds of things. And somehow in just 119 games, he still batted over 300 with 45 homers and 104 RBIs.
Right. Well, and I think that's true. And here's the thing for me is that when I look at JD, I just think.
Keep going.
No, I'll wait.
Okay. I'm getting the food.
I know.
Where is this person? Sorry, I'm so hungry. I'm about to eat so much food. Can I eat while we do this? I'll be really quiet about it.
You can try, yeah. What the hell?
I'll try.
Sure, okay.
Sorry, sorry. I'm just like on a phone call, so. Oh my God, something smells so good outside too. Thank you so much. Oh, I'm so hungry. Oh my God. All right. Did I miss anything in the Sox game, by the way?
No, there's 2 outs in the top of the ninth.
For them, right? Not for us.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, good. Ninth innings historically, though, have not been our friend this season, I have to say. We're not doing very well in the ninth inning. Okay.
Yeah, you're right about that. All right, so the thing for me about Martinez, I think, is that for JD, it's really kind of ever since. So his first real full year in the majors was 2014. I know he played 113 games in 2012, but his first real year was 2014. Since 2014, his batting average is 315, 282, 307, 303 last year, and now he's hitting 344 this year, which is ridiculous. It's only through 44 games or whatever.
Yeah, but he's homered 3 times this week.
No, right. But what I'm saying is that it's a little bit of consistency there as far as batting average wise. Even if you're not getting 30 to 40 home runs from him, which he's on pace to do, even if you're not getting that, if he's hitting 300 and getting, 30 or so doubles, like you're at least happy with that. Whereas Stanton, it's like you don't know if you're going to get that from him. And not only that, but it's much less of a commitment, I think, for Martinez. Number one, they didn't have to give up any prospects, and the Yankees really didn't have to give up crap to get him. But like, the thing for me is that you didn't have to give up any prospects at all, and you're
Which is
paying
good
a
because
lot
we
less.
didn't really have any.
Right, exactly. And you're also paying them a lot less. So I think, overall it's better for them. And Martinez has been significantly better than Stanton this year. So,
Yeah, well,
we'll see. Time will tell, obviously, but it seems like it was the right move for the Red Sox for sure.
I mean, I've got their stats for right now lined up, and JD is ahead of him in at bats, runs, hits, singles, doubles. They each have one triple. He's got more homers, more RBIs, like a lot more RBIs. He's got 38 RBIs. Stanton has 26.
Right.
The only thing Stanton's leading him in are stolen bases and walks. And you don't want to lead in walks.
Well, I mean, I don't think that matters. I mean, I think walks is fine.
Well, if you're driving in more runs and you have more homers, then you don't want to be leading in walks.
Right. Well, that's true. That is very true. Yeah. Well, I think Stanton too. I mean, what's he hitting? He can't be hitting.
So here's the best part. Stanton's batting 245 and
right.
JD's batting 344.
Right. So almost 100 points over.
Literally 99 points. Oh my God. The Orioles extended their lead. Really?
Yep.
It's great. Cool. Yeah. I mean, on base percentage, 394 for JD, 333 for Stanton.
Right.
Slugging percentage, Stanton has 510. JD has 656.
Right. No, it's not even close. And right now, it's not even close. And again, we're only a quarter of the way through the year. I mean, you never know what can turn around, but right now, it's not close. But listen, we've talked way too much positive stuff about the Red Sox.
Oh, great. Heath Hembry, and it's perfect timing because Heath Hembry's on the mound. So it's perfect time to get negative.
Let's go, Heath. So I do want to talk about two guys in particular. Heath Hembry can suck it. I don't even care what Heath Hembry.
I don't even know why he's still here.
Well, who else are they going to put out there? Stephen Wright looked great tonight.
Mm-hmm. Stephen Wright's making a case to take over for Drew Pomeranz in the starting rotation tonight.
No, he's not. Why? Because Drew Pomeranz looks so terrible?
Because Drew Pomeranz is consistently terrible.
Yeah, well, Stephen Wright gave up. What didn't exactly pitch a gem out of the bullpen tonight. But either way.
I just remember, like, in April, I was complaining about Drew Pomeranz. And yeah, it's still only May. But the thing is, everyone's like, oh, give Pomeranz a chance because he's just coming back from an injury.
I don't.
That's not a thing for me.
Yeah.
Because he's had like 5 starts and none of them have been good.
And I also don't understand, to me at least, doesn't make any sense, why they didn't undo that deal. Why not take the kid back, and send Pomeranz back when you knew he had an issue? He wasn't great. It's like, just take the young kid back. I mean, I get they wanted the arm because they thought they had a chance to compete, I guess, is the reason why they did it. But it's like, what are you doing? It was very short-sighted, I thought, on their part, especially on what you'd gotten from Pomeranz before. It didn't make any sense.
My thing also is just like, you've got Hector Velasquez has been pitching really well. And he even started, I think, 1 or 2 games at the beginning of the season when Pomeranz was on the DL. And it's like, my feeling is, if you've got Velasquez and you've got, Brian Johnson so far, like, has seriously deteriorated, but at the beginning of the season, he also pitched a starting game.
Right.
You've got players who can do both. You don't need to rush Pomeranz back.
Right.
And when he had that first start where he was so bad, and I was like, okay, so you tried it. He's clearly got stuff that he needs to work out. So you don't need to keep forcing this. And his first start was the first game against Oakland. And the next day we were no hit. And I'm not saying that that's like, the reason that we suck, but I did say, in between those 2 games, I did publish an article being like, look, the Red Sox were doing so great. We don't need to mess. I think the title was something like, don't mess with perfection. Like, if Pomeranz isn't ready, There are plenty of other players who are.
Right.
You
That's
don't
true.
need to mess with it. And they did. And that was like a downward spiral that was, unprecedented. No one expected us to stay, going 17-2, 18-2, 19-2. No one also no, I highly doubt anyone expected us to go what are we, like, 12-11 in our last
13 and
23?
12.
13 and
13 and
12 in
12
our
in our
last
last
20.
25.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
That is a hard fall.
right. No, it's 100%. It's not. And look, I mean, I think that they can survive some of that. I mean, obviously they're tied for first place still because they started off 17 and 0, 17 and 2. So obviously you have a little bit of leeway because of the start, but you still don't want to see it happen. And so we'll see how they pull themselves out of it. I think JBJ has been a disaster this
Oh
year.
God.
I don't understand what they're
What's he
doing.
batting, like 165?
It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, like, what is he bringing you? And I know he's had a few hot months here and there in his
Well,
career. He's had like
it's
two,
his defense that keeps him around.
and his defense has been great. Don't get me wrong,
I
but
mean,
like,
I personally think he should have been a Gold Glove last year.
right, right. I mean,
But that was last year.
right. I think you
He
got
was
to
never
figure
this
that
bad
out.
offensively last year.
It's ugly. It's really ugly. And so, it's just it's a mess. And so to me, JBJ, at some point, you have to just say, all right, like, you don't necessarily even have to cut him loose or DFA him or whatever. You don't have to do that. I'm not
But you have
saying
to do
this,
something.
but you got to do something. You got to change something up, sit him down for a week or so, like something.
Smack
to,
him in the head with a frying pan.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, that might work. But I mean, whatever. That's JBJ and David Price. I honestly feel like the downfall of the Red Sox, where the Red Sox have gone, started when they got rid of John Lester. And, it's kind of, to me at least, because you get rid of Lester, you have to sign Price. And Price is is the worst of the worst. He's the worst. He's just, you can't root for the guy. He's on the Red Sox. I should want to like him, and I can't like him. I just can't. He's so unlikable. And like, he can't pitch for whatever reason. Fortnite, or he's got allergies or something.
Carpal tunnel.
Dude, like, what are you doing? Like, are you kidding me? You can't, like, it's so ridiculous. And then he comes out and has a complete game, which, great, good for him. But it's kind of like, wait a second, couldn't he just not pitch like 5 days ago?
I'm
And
like,
now
yeah,
all of a sudden
like, it's not
pitching a
even couldn't
complete
you
game?
pitch. It's like I was on the brink of death. Okay, take a Claritin.
Right. And the big thing to me is I look at that and say, well, is he just scared then? He just doesn't want to pitch. He just doesn't want to pitch in Yankee Stadium. And so, that's really the question you have to ask is like, is it mental for him more than anything else? And I think when you look at it, I don't think there's a question. You can look at it and say it's got to be in his head. And it's the same reason he sucks in the playoffs every year. And you get the Price defenders who come out and say, oh, he's great and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. But like, until he can prove he can do it in the playoffs, I have zero faith in him. Zero. I have no faith in him. And I don't know how anybody could.
I mean, here's the thing. I had like someone viciously attack me on Twitter like 2 weeks ago, being like, David Price is actually underpaid. And like, as a woman trying to, in sports, like, I get a lot of stupid tweets at me. But that really took the cake because I was like, you know what? David Price, from the beginning, like, yes, he's had injuries. And I'm not talking about we can get into the Yankee thing in a second. But like, he has had injuries. But at the same time, it's also his attitude. The guy doesn't seem like, first he didn't seem like he wanted to be there. Then every spring training, he's like, I'm turning over a new leaf. I don't want to be negative, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, all right, cool. Like I said at the beginning of the season, I was like, I want to like David Price. I want to root for him. I want him to do well here because we're paying him $32 million a year. I want to not hate his guts,
But you do.
But
so
I
does
do
everybody else.
because he doesn't, and yes, I think that this whole Yankee thing aside, I think that he's had a better attitude this season. Until the Yankee thing, I think that he'd had a better attitude this season. Like, even when he wasn't doing well, he wasn't being like a little bitch about it the way that
Right.
he has in years past. And that made me happier because I was like, at the very least, he's a team player and everyone has a rough, he went his first 2 starts of the season, 7 scoreless innings each, he was showing improvement. And then with the Yankees, my thing is like, you know what? This isn't preschool. You don't get to say like, oh, I'm scared of the big bad Bronx players. Like, I don't want to do it. And then make up 17 excuses.
Right.
You
Figure it
know,
out.
you
Figure it out.
like, in 2004, Pedro said, I can't find a way to beat them. I just have to tip the hat, call the Yankees my daddy. He owned up to the fact that he couldn't pitch against the Yankees. And everyone was like frustrated that he couldn't pitch against them. But it made it that much better when he did. And people respected him for just owning his stuff.
Right.
And
Right.
David Price, it's like first it's that his hand is numb. Then it's carpal tunnel because of Fortnite. Then it's allergies. It's like, first of all, get your story straight.
Right.
Pick one and stick to it. But also, you're getting paid $32 million a year to do something that most people dream about. And you're giving basic excuses for like maladies that humans live with every day, like allergies and carpal tunnel. Everyone I know probably has one of those 2 things. And all that money that you make, you could buy a hell of a lot of Advil and Claritin, suck it up, and do your job.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. That's the biggest thing I think for us when we're looking at it is just to kind of say like, come on, like, really, that's the excuse you're going to give, and it seems
excuses plural.
right, and it just seems like he doesn't even care about giving a legit excuse. It's not even.
Did Hanley just hit a home run?
No, he did not. It doesn't seem it's those things to me are frustrating because it's like, come on, like.
It's not even like you want to play.
Me some line. Yeah. Like, it's just, you're just trying to avoid the Yankees. And that's embarrassing. Like, it is. It's embarrassing. And, like you said, Pedro owned up to it, but he was a man about it. He still pitched against the Yankees. He still did the best he could.
He took his L's. Yeah.
And he also pitched well against them in a few games as well. So it's like, you have to kind of look at those things and say, that's the way it goes. And he was obviously a big part of the comeback in 2004. So I think, to compare those 2 situations, I think is a good look at it because Pedro had his struggles and he owned up to it and eventually kind of got over it.
The difference, of course, being that Pedro was also a dominant pitcher.
Right. Well, not only
most of the rest of the time, David Price doesn't even have the stats and the games to back up having this struggle. Like, it's not like, the Yankees are his kryptonite, but everyone else he kicks ass. It's like you don't get to be a little bitch about the Yankees when you're not even doing your job, 70% of the rest of the time. He only pitched something like 70 innings total last year, and a bunch of them were as a reliever. And people seem to, and, Bostonians' memories are so short in terms of like, talking about, oh, well, he was so great in the postseason. I'm like, oh, you mean when he was a relief pitcher after doing nothing to help the team as a regular pitcher for the entire regular season?
Right.
Congratulations. Like, what do you want? You want a gold medal for doing part of your job for a week?
Right. And that's really the biggest issue that I have with it is that when you stop and look at it and you just say, what has he really done for this team? And there were people in the offseason talking about him coming out of the bullpen. And it's like he was dominant out of the bullpen. That's true. But the guy's getting paid $30 million a year. You can't put him in the bullpen. That's insane.
32.
And I don't care. I mean, I don't care what he's getting paid or how good he is in the bull. Like, I don't care how dominant he is in the bullpen. It doesn't matter. You can't put a guy making that kind of money in the bullpen. It's ridiculous. And so,
and pitching 2 innings every 2 games too. It's
right.
Like, okay, but then.
And it goes towards his psyche is really what it does because, the guy can't start a game, but he can come in the 4th inning and pitch really well. And it's like, well, how come he can't come in the 1st inning and pitch really well? So it's just one of those things that, that gets on everyone's nerves. And
not only that, then you just have to factor in that, like, right now he's not being a tool about in terms of attitude and media and all of this stuff. But you have to factor in the fact that, last year in the midst of all this, he's starting fights with Dennis Eckersley.
Right. Right.
About comments that Eck made about a fellow pitcher. And it's like, wait, I'm sorry. So you're so sensitive that Eck saying that Eduardo Rodriguez isn't having a good game sets you off. Meanwhile, at least Eduardo Rodriguez is pitching as a starter.
Right. Well,
really?
The scary thing is that the players were behind Price for that, and that was kind of how the locker room was going. And that's the scary part of it for me, is that he's kind of infecting the locker room. And I'll tell you what, and I said it before, like, he is one of the most unlikable players I think that's ever played in Boston. I mean, AJ Pierzynski might be a little bit more unlikable than he was, but like, there's not many guys that have played in Boston that are more unlikable than David Price. And whether he's pitching well or not, it's just so hard to root for him. And I know I understand you want him to do well because he plays for the Red Sox. And when he does well, the Red Sox do. I get that. But it's like, even still, it's like I still don't want to root for him.
Well, it's like at what cost,
Right.
Because Bostonians also want to be able to, like, we take our sports seriously on like a human level too. So we want to be able to love our team,
Right.
And like, you take a team like the 2012 team, chicken and beer guys, and it's like, not only were they losing all the time, but they were assholes. And you don't want to root for a team full of assholes. Like, even if, David Price was pitching, 7 scoreless innings every single time, he seems like he doesn't seem like a good guy. And so you're like, and then you've got guys, who, oh great, we lost. That's great. Super.
That's what it goes.
And Buck Showalter still isn't smiling because his team is still garbage.
30-15. We'll be all right. But no, I mean, I see your point, and I think that's one of the things about Boston that's unique, is that, we like our guys no matter what. I mean, our teams can be terrible, but we root for, guys, and we honestly, I mean, I think a lot of times we root for the underdog guys. I think that's one of the reasons that everyone loved Pedroia so much, and why people loved Isaiah Thomas so much, and guys like that, where they're the underdog guys, the guys that no one expects to do well, whereas Price is almost the opposite, where it's like Price is this amazing guy, and you look at him and you're like, okay, he should be dominant. And as he came in day one and was like, no, I'm just one of the guys. Just here as one of the guys. And it's like, no, you're not one of the guys. You're the ace. Like, you're getting paid like the ace. You're going to come in and give some stability to the team as the ace. And he never did that. And so, what a failure that has been. And really,
meanwhile, he has the balls, like the temerity, to try and be a team leader when he's being such a bad teammate, you know?
And that's frustrating,
It's like it's like you're infecting the clubhouse while doing such a bad job.
Yeah, it's true. So I mean, I could talk about David Price literally all day and just complain about that guy, because I honestly think that's, as long as Price is on the team, they're never going to win a World Series. That's my opinion of it. Now, I don't know. We'll see. But I just feel like as long as he's on the team, they're never going to win a World Series.
I mean, I said last year, he can't pitch against us in the postseason, and he can't pitch for us either.
Right.
Because he's been with us 2 postseasons now, and he was bad in 2016, and then he was a reliever on a losing team in 2017. And like, part of that is like, okay, so he was like the only contributor to the good aspect of like those 4 games in the ALDS. Right. Fine. But he did nothing to help boost the team the entire season. And in 2013, he gave up 2 home runs to Poppy in 1 game. He couldn't, so, and it always kills me that teams, that the Red Sox will pay all of this money for players who aren't good in the postseason. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I am one of those people I'm like, the regular season matters so much, because if you don't have a good team during the regular season, you're 9 times out of 10 not going to have a good team in the postseason. So, like, fine. Yeah. But at the same time, it doesn't. Sorry, I'm just like trying to turn off the fan. David Price had never proven himself in the postseason, and we're giving him the most lucrative contract in pitching history. And then we do the same thing for Chris Sale, who'd never even been in a postseason.
Right. Well, and look, I mean, I think there's a difference there. I mean, there's a happy
Obviously, Chris
medium.
Sale can throw a ball.
Right. Well, and there's a happy medium somewhere. I mean, I think for me personally, when I look at it and I say, okay, I think Chris Sale, it makes sense because you see what Chris Sale can do and you see the type of player he is. And he's never been to the playoffs because his teams that he played on always sucked, even though he was really good. And so
Right.
I don't know if you can necessarily blame him for that, but at a certain point, you start to look at it and say, okay, well, let's give him a big contract. That's fine. But Price has been to the playoffs and outside of his rookie year when he came out of the bullpen, has never really produced in the playoffs ever. And so, he doesn't have a win in the playoffs
And the
when he's
Sox
not a
office
reliever.
and the Sox office saw that literally firsthand because we demolished him in
Right.
2013.
Right. And so to go from the opposite extreme, it's almost like they went from one extreme with Sandoval, where he was only good in the only good in the playoffs, to the other extreme with Price, where he was only good in the regular season. And it was like, well, what do you want? Do you want a team that's good in the regular season, or do you want a team that's good in the playoffs? Because you're doing everything the wrong way. And I think they didn't have a plan for a while. I think Dombrowski, honestly, for a while was just kind of throwing stuff against the wall.
Yeah, well,
And I think
he's like loading up on pitchers with
right.
kind of reckless abandon.
Well, I think too, Sherrington really caught the short end of the stick. I
Yeah.
think Sherrington is better than he's given credit for. I don't think he wanted Sandoval or Hanley, to be honest with you. I
No.
mean, you signed two guys that play the same position that do exactly the same thing. It's like, what are you doing? It didn't make any sense. It never made any sense. And so, that one was tough for me to take, where it's like, what are you doing? Like, that was stupid. And again, I don't know if that's Sherrington or if that's Lucchino and the other guys feeding the monster. And eventually, I think you get the answer to that when Lucchino is now out of the decision making. So it's like, well, the reason why Lucchino's out of the decision making is because what happened that offseason. And what happened that offseason is they signed, Hanley and Sandoval. And so clearly that's a decision coming from that side of it and not coming from the GM side of it, in my opinion, at least. Now, I don't know that for sure, but that's where I'm coming from, at least. But who knows? So, anyways, we've been talking for a while. I really appreciate having you on. It's been a lot of fun. We'll have to see where it goes. I mean, 45 games in, I think I'm still reasonably happy with where they are. I mean, they're 13-13 now in the last 26, ever since starting 17-2. But again, if they can figure it out, core, first year manager kind of has to get them through these lulls. And so we'll see. We'll see if they can kind of turn the next 25 games into, maybe 15-10. And now all of a sudden you're doing well again. So who knows? We'll see what happens. But it should be fun. Before we let you go, where can people find you?
On Twitter, it's GFSTARR1, GF star one, or Girl at the Game. And I live tweet almost every single Red Sox game. And WTPsports.com, girlatthegame.com, baseball coverage all the time. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, you know what? Pat, can we do the Yankee thing real quick and then you can swap it or no?
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. That's fine.
We should just because that's just such a funny story. It's just such a ridiculous story.
No, that's fine.
With the 9% battery I still have on my phone.
Okay.
I mean,
so before we let you go, let's just talk quickly about this whole Yankees thing that happened last week. You wrote an article about it that had a ridiculous amount of views, and just kind of explain the situation to us because it's just stupid.
So, I mean, to preface this, I'll just say, this is in an age where MLB is trying so hard to make sure that people still actually care about baseball. So the fact that this story even happened is hilarious. And by hilarious, I mean, I literally never thought I would feel bad for a Yankees fan. But then again, I also never thought I'd see David Price pitch a complete game again. So it's been a weird week. It's been a weird week. There's a guy who goes to Yankee games, and I guess he always wears these bright neon outfits with messages on them for the Yankees. And in the last game of the Sox-Yankees series last week, the one where they had an hour-long rain delay, most of the ballpark emptied because obviously Yankee fans are weaker than Red Sox fans and they don't they melt in the rain. So you could see from the TV, Yankee Stadium was pretty empty, long rain delay. This guy moves down to the Legends section, which I guess are like the Yankees' fancy seats. I don't know because I will never set foot in Yankee Stadium.
I've been there.
Um,
It's pretty nice. Not gonna lie to you, it's pretty
I'm
nice.
surprised that your face didn't melt off
Roll
when
call.
you.
I'll tell you. Roll call is cheesy and tacky. It's pretty cool though. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's a pretty cool thing. I sat in the bleachers one game, Yankees Orioles, of course, wearing my Dustin Pedroia jersey with the Patriots hat.
Of course you did.
No, and no one said a word to me because actually everyone said the only thing anyone ever said to me was like, "You got some balls wearing that shirt here," and I'm like, "Yep, I do." Like,
I
and
used
that
to
was
wear.
it. Like, there was no one said a word outside of that. But I mean, I do. I mean, it is a nice stadium. I will say that it's a very nice stadium. So
I
they
mean,
have that going for
I
them,
used
I
to wear a
suppose.
2004 ALCS championship sweatshirt on campus at Columbia University in Harlem.
Yeah.
So,
So see, there you go. Yeah.
I've got some balls, but I don't feel the need to go to that hellhole. So
Right.
anyway,
Anyways, yeah. Keep going.
this guy, he goes down to the Legends section and he's wearing his shirts, and I guess he's been caught on camera before, like I guess because he stands out from the crowd in his neon thing. But this time, he very clearly is not supposed to be in that section. Doesn't have the tickets for the section, and the section looked pretty empty to me. And he gets escorted out of the section and banned from Yankee Stadium for life. But not only is he banned for life, it's the COO of the Yankees, Lon Trost, who personally bans him. And like, I don't know how the Yankees work. Maybe like Lon Trost has nothing better to do with his time, that he's takes pleasure in banning people for life. But that doesn't seem like a run of the mill banning to me. And then on top of it, he has the guy arrested and the guy's thrown in a holding cell in the Bronx for 24 hours.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you just have to wonder, first of all, like, what could this guy have possibly done to merit such a drastic overreaction? But also, Yankee Stadium is one of the newest and most expensive ballparks in America. Not every ballpark, and not every ballpark is sold out all the time like Fenway. Like when I went to the Angels series, we paid $8 for our tickets, and then we didn't even sit in our seats. We only bought them so we could get into the ballpark. We sat, 10 rows behind home plate because the Red Sox were kicking the Angels' butts so much that the stadium was empty by like the third inning. No one was there.
Right.
And my feeling is, if you're not actively taking someone's seats, why does it matter? Shouldn't the park want fans to enjoy the game? And definitely not banning the guy for life and having him thrown in a holding cell for 24 hours. Like, that just seems like so extreme.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
one thing to me, I mean, look, I think you should kind of let people go wherever they want. I will say, being a Patriots season ticket holder, the guys stand at the top of the section. You cannot get down the section unless you have a ticket that says you belong in that section.
Right.
And that's fine. Like, whatever. You want to do that at every section, that's totally fine. And then it's on them. Like, then it's on them to make sure you don't go down there. But like, if everyone's gone and you're somewhere now, maybe this guy's in the Legends section and he's not supposed to be there. Okay, fine. Like, he's not supposed to be there. So get him out of there. You want to even kick him out of the game? Fine, kick him out of. But a lifetime ban
And
that's
getting
insane.
and
Then arresting the guy is like, come on. Like, now you just, and I don't know. Maybe he was belligerent. Maybe he was punching people. I don't know. Like, I don't. Maybe there's more to the story than that. But it didn't
even
seem
so,
like there was. You know what I mean? So it's like,
everything I read, because I said the same thing. I was like, there's got to be a reason that this happened the way that it happened. But everything that I've read, it just seems like the guy was in the Legends section, and even if he'd like done it once or twice before, I just don't. I don't see how anything he could have possibly done would have been drastic enough to merit the response by the Yankees. And to me, it's just like, fine, I don't care. Yankees fans, whatever.
right.
But in all my years of going to Fenway Park, and my seats that I usually sit in are ticketed seats. They're close to the Sox dugout, so they're ticketed seats. But that 19 inning game against Toronto last year, I was at that game. and it's, the game went till 1:30 in the morning. The ballpark was empty by like the 12th inning. There were probably by the 19th inning there were probably 500 of us in the ballpark at most. We were all sitting together on the first baseline, and we are all hanging out, complaining, talking, joking, like whatever.
Right.
And then when that game was over, we all kind of felt like we were friends. And it's like that's what baseball should be. And this guy had like maybe the worst experience I've ever heard of at a ballpark.
Yeah.
For
And
what
again,
seems like no reason.
Right. And again, like, even if you have a policy, even if you have a policy that says you can't move seats or you can't do this, you can't do, like, it's like, okay, fine, he did it, but no one's there. It's not like
who is he hurting?
It's not like it's a sellout and there's a bunch of people there. No one's there, and that's
not
the
like
rule. I mean, that's the rule of the road, man.
It's not like he punched a baby, threw the baby over the balcony, and then took the seat and was like, "Fuck children."
That's okay. That's a little extreme, but
he sat in an empty seat.
But I mean, the thing is, to me, is that we look at it and that's the rule of the road, man. That's when you're at a game. That's just that's the rule. If everyone clears out and you stay, well, your compensation for you staying, your reward for you staying is you get to move down and sit somewhere else because you get to pick wherever the hell you want to sit because everyone's gone. Like that's just the way it goes. And so like to punish someone that severely for doing something like that is so ridiculous and makes so much sense since of course it's the Yankees that they would do something that incredibly stupid and just totally stuck up. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's like, you can't have a beard and you can't do this and you can't do that and you can't move your seat or otherwise we're going to ban you permanently from the stadium. And it's like, dude, get off your flipping high horse and, go somewhere else.